You know, the great events need great preparation with great people. We have a great event in front of us, Shavuot, and we need great preparation. And how are we going to do that? With great people. And Baruch Hashem here, we have, you know, great scholars in town. Baruch Hashem. I remember when I was about to come to Los Angeles, I told my rabbi, brother, somebody was here, one friend from an old friend. He said that I remember what you said in your Sechem Shalom. He said, what do you remember? You said, remember that you said in front of Rosh Yeshiva and everybody that you would need a bulldozer to move it from Yeshiva. But Rabbi Weinberg, did it. I told him that I want to learn Choshen Mishpat, I want to finish up the thing. He said, no, you cannot be mafkir 40,000 Persian Jews in Los Angeles. You have to come. And Baruch Hashem, we came, and I was talking to my rabbi. The Rebbe says, don't worry, Los Angeles is not a midbar. There are great Talmudei Chachamim that you could learn from, you deal with, you could talk over. And, you know, Baruch Hashem, here we are. Remember that you have any questions, you go to Rabbi Sauer, you call him, he's available to talk and to say. And on the personal note, I have to thank Rabbi Sauer. I don't know whether he remembers or not, Rabbi Sauer. When I went to town, it was very hard for me. We would learn. There was any Talmudei Chachamim to talk to. You know, who was here? Who was, you know, the caliber of Kollel to talk in learning? Now it was Baruch Hashem, Mishamayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes things. And when it was Shabbat, I used to go out of there, after the minyan, I used to go out. I saw Rabbi Sauer on the way. I saw Rabbi Sauer is going back because he used to come, I don't know whether this day comes. He used to come from the other side of town, because I had the minyan here. And on the way, I used to ask my question, Rabbi Sauer. This question, that question, I was amazed. You know, any studio that I was talking, I don't know whether Rabbi remembers or not. In my personal note, I have to be thankful to you. It was a great nechama. See people do things and they don't even remember. And it was a great nechama to me that I have somebody to talk to. And we appreciate Rabbi Sauer all the time coming and, you know, with our questions of the community to deal with very well Balabotim, a lot of Balabotim. They have great Shaykhut Rabbi Sauer, you know, Yula, and Baruch Hashem, you know, all of the greatness, I just wanted to get yesterday, we learned the Talmud is not the Kiddush. Yesterday we learned Hilchot Talmud Torah. Now the Rambam starts with Hilchot Talmud Torah in a very strange way. Rambam says, Nachum v'avadim peturim Talmud Torah. It's unbelievable. Rambam doesn't start the halacha like that. It's not a normal way of starting halacha. We don't start halacha with the fact of saying that Nachum v'avadim peturim Talmud Torah. You first you tell us that there is a chiyuv. Then you tell us what's the dimension of the chiyuv. And then you tell us who is patur, who is chaya. But you don't go ahead and say, Nachum v'avadim peturim b'Talmud Torah. How come Rambam starts like that? There are different truths from different, something that's proper for us to understand and to relate for Shavuot. It's like this. If Rambam starts with saying the petur, that patur from Talmud Torah, that means to say, that is the dimension of talking about the chiyuv. In other words, Rambam talks about P'tur because through that it tells you what's the nature of chiyuv. In other words, that's the only way that makes sense for Rambam. Rambam is a very logical order of talking. If the only way to tell you and to point out the sharpness of the chiyuv is to say the P'turim, first talks about the P'turim to tell you what's the nature of the chiyuv. Now, what's the point? A lady, does she have to keep all of the Hilchot or not? Ladies have to keep all of the Hilchot. All of the Hilchot, she has to keep Shabbat, she has to keep Kashrut, she has to keep Matzah, all of the Chiyuvim she has. She's part of from learning. And that gives us a very deep dimension in learning Torah. Learning Torah is not just learning halacha what to do. Learning Torah is immersing in Torah. To make the body, to make the mind and brain immersed in Torah and learning Torah. If the learning Torah is just to know the halacha, they will even lashim, they should know because they have to know the halacha. And Rambam says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says they are patur from this mitzvah of learning Torah. Because the mitzvah of learning Torah is not just to know instructions and to halacha. The learning Torah is the mind to be immersed in Torah. We have Baruch Hashem, Kulla Ba'alibatim, that they come every Wednesday morning and I give them Maremekuman and learn. The Ba'alibas learned for 3-4 hours and says, Rabbi, I didn't learn any halacha. I didn't get any point. What is it? What is it? I could go to shur half an hour, I learn 100 halacha, 20 halacha. But here I'm working in the back of the Gemara to be involved in the Gemara, and I didn't learn any halakha. What's going on? See, he's missing a great point both in life and in Torah. Somebody learns 20 halakha because he got instruction. This is mutar, this is also. Somebody works 3-4 hours in the Gemara to break his head to understand the Gemara, immerses himself in learning. We made the brain of Torah. This brain could pass in 1,000 issues in life to understand what's right, what's wrong. This is the brain of Torah. This is the brain that works in the system of Torah. He understands Torah, he relates to Torah. And that's Shavuot. Shavuot, we have to understand what's the brain of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How does HaKadosh Baruch Hu conduct his life? And he gave us beautiful gift to process, to make. And that takes commitment of learning and getting and sitting and doing. There are some people that are just like to hear, just like to get instructions. But that's not the juice of Torah. The juice of Torah is to make us to understand, to relate, and through that we could conduct our life, a life of Torah and mitzvah.
It's really always a pleasure to come to Yachad Kollel before Yom Tov to speak and see the tremendous growth that the impact that the Kollel has had on the community. Shavuos, of course, is the Yom Tov of Matan Torah, Zman Matan Torah saying. It's different than the other Yom Tov. By Pesach and by Sukkot we have mitzvahs masiyos. We have mitzvahs that we do. Sukkah, lulav, matzah, moror. On Shavuos, there are no specific mitzvahs. It's all about Torah. And the whole focus is on Kabbalah HaTorah and on learning Torah. And there is a minhag Yisrael to stay up the first night of Shavuos to learn the whole night in preparation for Kabbalah HaTorah on the morning of Shavuos. And whether one is learning Gemara, or one is learning Chumash, or one is learning doing Tikkun Leil Shavuos, but that's the minhag Yisrael, that we are engaged in learning as a hachon, as a preparation for Kabbalah HaTorah. As a result of this minhag, there's a very interesting question that comes up every year on the morning of Shavuos by Shachris. Do we say Birkas HaTorah? Do we say Birkas HaTorah on the morning of Shavuos? Because we're up all night. We haven't gone to sleep. Usually we go to sleep at night, and when we wake up in the morning, there's a new chiyuv of Birkas HaTorah. But what about how do we get around that issue, and what is the issue as far as Birkas HaTorah on the first morning of Shavuos? So I'd like to focus on Birkas HaTorah, the bracha that we say every morning on learning Torah, and because this really teaches us a lot about the essence of learning Torah. What is learning Torah all about? And so I want to focus on that. Of course, in Birkas HaTorah, there are 3 brachas, or maybe 2 brachas. First bracha is Lasach B'divrei Torah, to toil in learning Torah. Second bracha is V'harev No. We ask Hashem to make learning Torah pleasant for us and for our children and grandchildren. And the third bracha is Asher B'chavonu Mikol Ha'amim, that Hashem chose us from among all the nations, and He gave us His Torah. So what is Birkas HaTorah? What is the chiyuv, the obligation of Birkas HaTorah? There's really a 3-way machlokas rishonim about this. The Ramban says that Birkas HaTorah is a mitzvah min HaTorah. He counts as one of the Taryag mitzvahs. That before we learn Torah, we say a bracha on Torah, and the Ramban explains the purpose of the bracha is that every time we learn Torah, we should thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving us the Torah. And this tremendous gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us, that through the Torah, Hodiyonu Hamasim Haretzuim Lefanu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu taught us what he wants from us in terms of our living, what he wants us to do, the mitzvahs that we should do, so that we can inherit Olam Haba. In the same way that after we eat, we have to say a bracha, we say Birchas Hamazon, and thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the food that he gave us. So too, nitztavino bebirchas haTorah k'edem alimud. So too, before we learn Torah, we have a mitzvah to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to say a bracha on our learning of Torah. And where is this learned from? It's a Gemara in Brachas. Gemara in Brachas learns the mitzvah of Birchas haTorah from the pasuk in Hazinu, Ki Shem Hashem Ekra, Havu Gadol Elokeinu. Right? When Moshe Rabbeinu says to Klal Yisrael, when I will call out the name of Hashem, give a bracha, Havu Gadol, praise Hashem. So where do we see Birchas haTorah from that pasuk? So the Ramban in his Hakdama Tachum says, Kol haTorah Kula, the whole Torah from beginning to end is really Shema Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Is really the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you mitzarif the letters of the Torah in a different way than we have it in the Torah, but you combine them differently, it turns out that the whole Torah is really the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore, Ki Shem Hashem Ekra, when I will teach you Torah, when you learn Torah, when you're reading Torah, Havu Gadol Elokeinu, say a bracha on the Torah. So it's a mitzvah saseh, according to the Ramban, to say Birchas haTorah before we learn Torah. And the Sefer Chinuch holds that way, the Rashba holds that way. However, the Rambam seems to disagree. The Rambam does not count Birchas haTorah as one of the mitzvahs. It seems from the Rambam that Birchas haTorah is a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, that the Chachomim instituted Birchas haTorah, in contrast to the Ramban. And so there we have a machlokes whether Birchas haTorah is midoraisa or Birchas haTorah is midrabanan. There's a third opinion that's brought down in the Mishkenos Yaakov. Mishkenos Yaakov, based on Yerushalmi, says Birchas haTorah b'tzibur is a mitzvah deraisa. When one is saying Kriyas haTorah, when there's a Kriyas haTorah b'tzibur in the congregation, a whole group of Jews are learning Torah together, so then Birchas haTorah is midoraisa. But for a yochid, for an individual, Birchas haTorah is d'Rabbanan. And that's how the Mishkenos Yaakov explains, why is it that when we get an aliyah, we say a new Birchas haTorah, or we already said Birchas haTorah in the morning. Right? When we were saying brachas at the beginning of davening, we said Asher Bocha Banu B'Kol Ha'am. So why is it that when we get an aliyah, we once again say a bracha Asher Bocha Banu? So the Mishkenos Yaakov says, according to this Yerushalmi, we understand it very well. Because the bracha that we said in the morning was only a chiyuv d'Rabbanan, because it was an individual saying the bracha. When we're learning Torah b'tzibur, as part of a whole tzibur, as part of a whole group of Jews, that chiyuv, according to Yerushalmi, is a chiyuv mid'oraisa. And therefore you can't be yotzei that chiyuv with the birkas, with the bracha that you said in the morning by davening. That was the Rabbanan, and now you have a new chiyuv midoraisa. According to the Ramban, that there's a chiyuv midoraisa on the individual to say Birchas haTorah. So he gives a different reason why when we get an aliyah we say a new Birchas haTorah, Asher Bocha Banu. That's a special takana, the Ramban says, for Kavod haTorah. When we're going up and getting aliyah from the Sefer Torah itself, we have to show a special Kavod haTorah, special honor and respect for the Torah. And how do we do that? By saying a bracha on Kriyas haTorah. So we have a major machlokes whether Birchas haTorah is a mitzvah d'Oraisa or it's a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. What's the nafkamina? What's the difference? Either way, there's an obligation to say Birchas haTorah. So the Shagas Aryeh, the Mishnah Berurah, they say nafkamina will be, what happens if a person has a sofek? He doesn't remember whether he said Birchas haTorah. He doesn't. Does he have to repeat? Does he have to say the Birchas haTorah when he has a sofek? And the nafkamina depends on whether Birchas haTorah is a mitzvah min haTorah or it's a mitzvah midrabanan. If it's min haTorah, we have a klal sofek d'oraisa l'chumra. Whenever you have a sofek about a mitzvah d'oraisa, you got to go l'chumra. You have to be machmir. So then he would have to say Birchas haTorah. But if it's only d'Rabbanan, sofek d'Rabbanan is l'kula, and therefore he would not have to say over the Birchas haTorah. So this is a major machlokes, and that has nafkaminas lahalacha. Very, very interesting. Rabbi Chonan Wasserman, he raises the question: what happens if we say that Birkas HaTorah is min HaTorah? That there's an obligation min HaTorah to say Birkas HaTorah before we learn Torah, as the Ramban and the Sefer Chinuch hold. So he raises the question: what happens then if a person learnt Torah without saying Birkas HaTorah? Is he yotzei the mitzvah of Talmud Torah? And Rabbi Chonan Wasserman proves from a Rosh, a Tosis or Rosh in Brochis, that since Birkas HaTorah is a mitzvah d'oraisa according to the Ramban, that if you would learn without saying Birkas HaTorah, you would not have a mitzvah of Talmud Torah. Birkas HaTorah is ma'akev. It's absolutely necessary for the limud HaTorah. It sets the tone. It prepares us. It gives us the perspective what limud HaTorah is all about. And since it is a mitzvah d'oraisa, Rabbi Chonan Wasserman says it will be ma'akev. The Dvar Avraham argues. The Dvar Avraham Kana Shapira argues on Rabbi Chonan Wasserman, and he says that even if Birkas HaTorah is a mitzvah d'oraisa, there will not be ma'akev if one is learning Torah without having said a Birkas HaTorah.
Is it totally on the Saba Ba'avira?
What? No, not totally. It's just a question. Tosis Rosh says that if you have a Birkas HaMitzvah, which is Midah it would be ma'akev in the mitzvah. And look it up in the Dvar Avram, Cheluk Aleph, Dvar Avram. He has a long piece on this. The central issue, and I want to show you how this central focal issue can have a number of nafkaminas lahalocha. There is a chakira among the achronim as to the very essence, the very nature of Birkas HaTorah. We know that there are three categories of brachas. There's a Birkas HaMitzvah, a bracha that we say on the mitzvah, right? On the mitzvah lulav and esrog, on sukkah, we say a bracha before we do the mitzvah. Then there's a category of Birkas HaShrach, a bracha of praises to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thunder and lightning, right? We say a Birkas HaShrach, a rainbow. We say a Birkas HaShrach to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a bracha of praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then there's Birkas HaNenin, brachas that we say on eating foods. Right? Brachas that we say on the hanoah, on the pleasure that we have from eating foods. These are the three basic categories of brachas. Which category does Birkas HaTorah fall into? Simply, we would say it's a Birkas HaMitzvah. It's a bracha on the mitzvah of learning Torah. And however, Reb Chaim Soloveitchik said that Birkas HaTorah is not a Birkas HaMitzvah. It's a Birkas HaShrach. It's a bracha of praise to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving us Torah. It's a bracha of praise on the chefza of Torah, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the words of Torah. He gave us a chefza of Torah, the Torah itself. So it's a bracha on the Torah itself rather than a Birkas HaMitzvah. Because divrei Torah, the words of Torah, need a bracha before we learn them. Ki shem Hashem ekra havu godel le'elokeinu. And by Sardim, I think the nusach of Birkas HaTorah is al divrei Torah, right? Not lasok b'divrei Torah. So if it's al divrei Torah, we understand very well that it could be a Birkas HaShrach on the words of Torah, right? Even by Ashkenazim, where we say lasok b'divrei Torah, right, to toil in Torah, to learn Torah, it could still be a bracha on the words of Torah. When we are oseh, when we are involved in learning Torah, we have to say a bracha on the words of Torah. So this is a famous chakira, whether Birkas HaTorah is a Birkas HaMitzvah, like other brachas on mitzvahs, because Talmud Torah, of course, is one of the greatest mitzvahs. Or is it a Birkas HaShrach? It's a bracha of thanking and praising HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving us this great matana, this great gift of Torah. Right? So, yes.
The nosach is Asher Rishon b'Misposa.
Right. But it could still be a bracha on the Torah itself. Hashem gave us, He sanctified us, and He commanded us, it still could be a bracha on the Torah itself. Based on this
It's
chakira,
only Shevach, is that mitzvah? You know,
What?
you cannot learn that Shevach and mitzvah together.
no, he says it's just a
Shevach.
very, you'll see what he
Shevach.
says that. So there are, based on this chakira, we can understand a number of different halachas about birkas HaTorah. Rabbi Levi Chaim mentioned before about women. Women are part of from Talmud Torah. They don't have the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. Did they say a birkas HaTorah? The Shulchan Aruch paskins, women do say a birkas HaTorah in the morning, even though they're not mitzvah in the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. And this is an issue. Why is it that women say birkas HaTorah? So the Magen Avraham explains that although they're not mitzvah in the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, but they have to learn, in order to know how to do whatever is relevant to them, whatever is applicable to them, they have to learn Hilchot Shabbos and Hilchot Kashrus and Hilchot Tefillah, and there's so many different areas that they have to learn, because if you don't learn, you don't know how to be Mekayim the mitzvahs. So the Magen Avraham says that they have to say a bracha, a birkas HaTorah, because women also have to learn those parts of Torah which are relevant halacha l'maaseh to them. So it's sort of their limud HaTorah, their learning Torah is a means to an end, rather than an end in itself. And the question on this, the Vilna Gaon asked the question on this, we don't say a bracha on something which is a hechsher mitzvah, a means to an end. You only say a bracha on something which is the mitzvah itself. But limud HaTorah for women, although they have to learn what's relevant, but it's a means to an end so that they should know how to be mekayim the mitzvahs. And the Vilna Gaon doesn't like that explanation of the Magen Avraham. The Vilna Gaon gives a different explanation. The Vilna Gaon says that although women are potter from Talmud Torah, but they can say a bracha on a mitzvah, even though they're potter from that mitzvah. For instance, mitzvah sesei shazman groma, like lulav and esrog or shofar. Women can say a bracha on that, even though they're not chayiv in the mitzvah. And so too by Talmud Torah, they're not chayiv in the mitzvah of learning Torah, but they can still say a bracha on a birkas HaTorah, because even though they're not obligated in the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. The problem with this, everyone asks, is that the Mechaber doesn't hold that way. The Mechaber in Shulchan Aruch holds like the Rambam, that a woman cannot say a bracha on the mitzvah sesei she'azman groma. She can't say a bracha on lulav and esrog or on shofar, because she's not mitzvah, she's not obligated in the mitzvah. So how can we explain the Mechaber that he says, by birkas HaTorah, although women are part of the mitzvah Talmud Torah, she can still say a bracha on Talmud Torah? So that's the kasha, big question on the Vilna Gaon's explanation. Comes along with Chaim Soloveitchik. Chaim Soloveitchik gives a third explanation. How can women say a bracha on a birkas HaTorah? Because it's not a birkas HaMitzvah. It's not a bracha on the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, which women are part of from. It's a birkas HaShvach on the Cheftzah Shel Torah, on the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave a Torah to Klal Yisrael. So every time we learn, we're mishabeach HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We thank and praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving us the Torah. And that applies to women as well. She doesn't have a mitzvah Talmud Torah, but women, Torah was given to the women by Har Sinai as well. Right? Kol Soma Bebeis Yaakov, the Sagi Livnei Yisrael. So Matan Torah, Kabbalah HaTorah was equally for the women as for the men, and therefore women also have a chiyuv to be mishabeach, to thank and praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu on the matana, on the gift of Torah that was given to Klal Yisrael. And she has that mitzvah to praise, right, to say the birkas HaTorah every morning, because she's she's included in that birkas HaShvach, to be mishabeach, to thank and praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving us Torah. So Reb Chaim Soloveitchik explained, based on his understanding of birkas HaTorah, that it's a birkas HaShvach rather than a birkas HaMitzvah, we now understand why women can say, and are chayiv to say. They're obligated to say a birkas HaTorah every morning. Another halacha that depends on this understanding on this hakira of what is the nature of Birkas HaTorah is the question. If a person is thinking and learning, they're not verbalizing, they're not saying the words of Torah, but they're thinking about, is there a bracha on someone who's maharher, on hearer, on thinking? So the Shulchan Aruch paskins, ha-maharher b'divrei Torah, if someone is thinking in Torah, ein tzarech levarech Birkas HaTorah. You don't have to say a Birkas HaTorah. It's only when you're saying the words of Torah, that's when you have to say a Birkas HaTorah. But if a person is writing divrei Torah, he's writing down a chiddush that he had, so then the Shulchan Aruch paskins that he does have to say a Birkas HaTorah now. So hirhur does not require a bracha, Birkas HaTorah. Why? Because we have a klal in halacha. Hirhur lav kidibur dami. When you're thinking, it's not like you're saying. Thinking is not saying. Saying is when you verbalize, when you're saying the words, you're pronouncing them. That's dibur. But hirhur is lav kidibur dami, and therefore the Shulchan Aruch paskins, there's no bracha on hirhur of divrei Torah when you're just thinking in the. The Vilna Gaon asks a question on this. The Vilna Gaon says, if a person is thinking and learning and is not saying the words, does he have a mitzvah of Talmud Torah? Of course he has a mitzvah of Talmud Torah. Right? The Torah says, "V'hagisa bo yom v'layla." You shall think. Hagisa means to think. You shall think in divrei Torah day and night. The Gedolei Yisrael are constantly involved, even though you don't see them moving their lips, but they're constantly involved in thinking divrei Torah. Every free moment that they have, they're thinking. They have a mitzvah. There's a mitzvah of Talmud Torah when you're thinking in divrei Torah. The Torah doesn't say that you have to dafka say the words. V'hagisa. If you're thinking about Torah, that's also a mitzvah of Talmud Torah.
The way Ramban learns,
What?
the way Ramban learns, Kishem Hashem Ekra.
Yeah.
It sounds like Mechaber.
Could be. Yeah. So the Vilna Gaon says, why not say a bracha on hirhur? And the Vilna Gaon actually says, he paskins, that if you're thinking in divrei Torah, you have to say a birkas. You have to say a birkas HaTorah. So it's a machlokes between the Mechaber and the Vilna Gaon, whether to say a bracha on hirhur. What is the essence of this machlokes? It could depend on this question. What is the nature of birkas? The nature of birkas HaTorah. According to the Vilna Gaon, birkas HaTorah is a birkas HaMitzvah. When one thinks in learning, he certainly has a mitzvah of Talmud Torah, and therefore he can say a birkas HaTorah on hirhur. However, the Mechaber, the Shulchan Aruch holds that Birkas HaTorah is a bracha on the words of Torah, on the chefts of Torah, on the gift of Torah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Klal Yisrael. So there has to be some hamoshes to it. It has to be something tangible. Thinking is not tangible. Thinking, nobody can see it, it's not tangible, it's totally abstract, totally esoteric. It's in one's mind. So there's no divrei Torah there. According to the Mechaber, the bracha has to be, the bracha is a bracha, birkas hashvach, on divrei Torah, on the cheftza shel Torah. So there has to be something tangible, and therefore thinking, there's no divrei Torah, so there's no bracha. So this possibly could be the machlokes between the Vilna Gaon and the Shulchan Aruch. What is the nature of Birkas HaTorah? According to the Shulchan Aruch, Birkas HaTorah is a Birkas Hashvach, like Reb Chaim Soloveitchik explained. And according to the Vilna Gaon, it's a Birkas HaMitzvah, and one certainly gets a mitzvah on thinking when he's thinking in learning. It's an interesting story they tell about the Vilna Gaon. The Vilna Gaon slept very little. He slept 2 hours in a 24-hour period. But sometimes when he slept, min hashamayim, from heaven, they would reveal to him certain things, certain insights that came min hashamayim. So there was one time the Vilna Gaon was sleeping, and he had some min hashamayim. They revealed to him 100 different explanations of a certain sugya, of a certain halacha. 100 different explanations. And the Vilna Gaon, he woke up, he was very, very excited, right? And right away, he tried to review them. So he shouldn't forget them. 100 different explanations that were transmitted to him in a very short time in his sleep. So he tried to review them, could not remember a single one. Could not remember a single one. This is the Vilna Gaon, an unbelievable genius, right? But he could not remember a single one. And it caused him tremendous anguish, tremendous sorrow. Then he said Birkas HaTorah, and he remembered all of them. After he said Birkas HaTorah, so he realized, I hold l'shitosti, according to my shita, my opinion is, you're not supposed to learn Torah, even behirur, by thinking, unless you say a Birkas HaTorah. So since that's my shita, so min hashamayim prevented me from remembering, from thinking of all these 100 different insights, because I had not yet said a Birkas HaTorah. Once I said a Birkas HaTorah, so then min hashamayim, they opened up the door and they let me remember all of these 100 insights into Torah. So the Vilna Gaon l'shitosai, that he held that you have to say a Birkas HaTorah on thinking, right? So that's why he couldn't remember when he was thinking about the Divrei Torah until he said a Birkas HaTorah. There is another question which can be dependent on this question, on this machlokes. What is the nature of Birkas HaTorah? And this is very, very much halacha l'maisa on Shavuos night. Very much halacha l'maisa, as we'll see. We say a Birkas HaTorah every morning. Usually, we go to sleep, we sleep through the night, and then the next morning, when we wake up, we say all the brachas, including a Birkas HaTorah. The Shulchan Aruch says that if a person goes to sleep at night, and he wakes up in the middle of the night, he wakes up 3 o'clock in the morning, and he wants to learn, does he say a Birkas HaTorah? It's not the next morning yet, it's not after Alos HaShachar, it's in the middle of the night, does he say a Birkas HaTorah? So on this is a machlokes rishon, whether if he wakes up in the middle of the night, after a few hours of sleep, does he say a Birkas HaTorah? Machlokes between the Rosh and Rabbeinu Tam. According to the Rosh, he has to say a new Birkas HaTorah. Why? Because he slept for a few hours. That was a hesech hadas, that was a distraction. During the day, whenever we learn, we rely on the Birkas HaTorah that we said in the morning. Even though we're learning hours later than the Birkas HaTorah, it doesn't matter. The Birkas HaTorah covers our learning the whole day. But if a person goes to sleep for a few hours, a sheinas keva, right? He sleeps in his bed, he's not just dozing off for a few minutes, but he goes to sleep for a few hours. So the Rosh says he has a hesech hadas. He's now distracted from learning, except the Vilna Gaon could learn when he was sleeping. But everyone, all of us, right, we're not learning, we're not capable of learning when we're sleeping. So there's a hesach hadas, and therefore he has to say a new Birkas HaTorah. What?
Even if you're not
Yeah, we'll get to that in a moment. Yeah. However, according to Rabbeinu Tam, he doesn't have to say a new Birkas HaTorah because Rabbeinu Tam held that the Birkas HaTorah covers from morning to morning. It covers the whole day and the whole night until the next morning. Right? Even though you went to sleep, it's still, according to Rabbeinu Tam, you wouldn't have to say no Birkas HaTorah. And the same thing would apply if a person goes to sleep in the middle of the day. If a person goes to sleep for 2 hours in the middle of the day, does he have to say a new Birkas HaTorah when he wakes up and when he wants to learn? According to the Rosh, yes, he would. Because he has a hesach hadas. The fact that he went to sleep. So there's a new obligation to say Birkas HaTorah. According to Rabbeinu Tam, Birkas HaTorah covers from morning to the next morning, and therefore he would not have to say a new Birkas HaTorah. Shulchan Aruch brings down both of these opinions are brought down in Shulchan Aruch. What's the machlokes between the Rosh and Rabbeinu Tam? According to the Rosh, again, if a person sleeps during the daytime or he sleeps a few hours at night, he has to say a new Birkas HaTorah when he wakes up and he wants to learn. According to Rabbeinu Tam, the Birkas HaTorah from the morning, covers the whole day and the whole night until the next morning. So possibly this machlokes could also depend on the nature of Birkas HaTorah. What is a Birkas HaTorah? According to the Rosh, it's a Birkas HaMitzvah. It's a bracha on the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. As long as a person is awake during the day and he has an obligation to learn Torah whenever he has a free moment, so that Birkas HaTorah that he said in the morning can cover any Torah that he's learning during the day or at night. But once he goes to sleep and he has a hesed chadas, he's now distracted, he's now in a state where he can't learn Torah, so then, according to the Rosh, he has to say a new Birkas HaMitzvah. A new Birkas HaMitzvah, because Birkas HaTorah is a Birkas HaMitzvah. However, according to Rabbeinu Tam, he views Birkas HaTorah as a Birkas HaShrach. It's a bracha of praising and thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving us Torah, right? Just like all the other Birkas HaShrach that we say in the morning. All of the brachas, right? We only say them in the morning. If a person sleeps in the middle of the day or sleeps at night and he wakes up in the middle of the night, he doesn't have to say them again, because these are brachas that cover from morning till the next morning. So Rabbeinu Tam says, Birkas HaTorah is in that category. So you don't have to say, even if you slept for a few hours, you don't have to say a new bracha because it is a Birkas HaShrach. This machlokes between Rabbeinu Tam and the Rosh has ramifications for Shavuos night. If a person stays up the whole night, he doesn't sleep. Right? Does he have to say a new Birkas HaTorah the next morning? So according to the Rosh, what obligates him to say a Birkas HaTorah is what? To sleep. The fact that he's sleeping, so he has a hesed chadas, and therefore he has to say a Birkas HaTorah. But if he's awake the whole night, according to the Rosh, he wouldn't have to say a new Birkas HaTorah because he never has a hesed chadas. According to Rabbeinu Tam, it doesn't matter. According to Rabbeinu Tam, it's a Birkas HaShrach. It's a bracha. We're praising and thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have to do that every morning, just as we have to say all the Birkas HaShachar every morning. Pokeach Ivrim, Malbish Arumim, all of those brachas every morning. It's not dependent on Hesed Chadas, because it's a Birkas HaShvach, praising and thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, this is where the issue comes up of when we're learning the whole night of Shavuos. What do we do as far as Birkas HaTorah the next morning? It's a question about some of the other brachas as well, but I'm focusing on Birkas HaTorah, right? You can't really say, because it's a question, it's a machlokes, and both of these opinions are brought down in Shulchan Aruch, you can't really say a Birkas HaTorah the next morning. So Rabbi Kivega says, if somebody slept on Erev Shavuos for a few hours, a lot of people go to sleep Erev Shavuos, so that they can stay up the whole night. If he slept in his bed on Erev Shavuos for a few hours, then for sure you can say a Birkas HaTorah the next morning. Why? Rabbi Kivega says, Miman Hashach. According to Rabbeinu Tam, even if you're up the whole night, you can say a Birkas HaTorah the next morning because it's a Birkas HaShrach. And according to the Rosh, that you need sleep in order to say a new Birkas HaTorah, well, he got to sleep. He slept during the daytime, not at night, but he slept a Sheinas Keva during the daytime, and therefore, even according to the Rosh, you can say a Birkas HaTorah the next morning. So halacha l'maisa, what do we do? What do we do? So in many shuls, they try to find one person who slept at night, right? He slept at night, and he comes to daven vasikin, comes early to shul, and so he can say the Birkas HaTorah and the other brachas that are problematic if you're staying up the whole night, and he's motzi the whole tziva. I imagine you.
No, our minhag is to make bracha.
What?
The new day, you do make.
Oh, yeah, really?
Minhag is that we make bracha.
Really? Oh,
The
okay.
day this time of Amud HaShachar, we should make a bracha for them.
Interesting. I never knew that. But by Ashkenazim, this is what Ashkenazim do. They try to find what they call a Chinese volunteer. right? You know what a Chinese volunteer is. A person who really didn't want to do it, but they forced them. You go to sleep tonight. We need you tomorrow morning, right? That you should say Birchas HaTorah. We're allowing you to go to sleep for a few hours at night, right? So that's what or the other solution is Rabbi Kivega. The other solution is to have somebody who slept on Erev Shavuos for a few hours, and then he's up the whole night. But he, according to Rabbi Kivega, he can say a Birchas HaTorah both according to Rabbeinu Tam and according to the Rosh.
The Ashkenazim rely on Rabbi Kivega?
What?
The Ashkenazim rely
If they
on
can't find the Chinese
Why?
volunteer.
It's a very good Sevara. What's wrong with it?
It's very good. Yeah. Usually there's somebody who slept.
No, why is it better?
It's not bad. No, it's not bad.
Very good
It's
Sevara.
very good. Yeah.
Why
It's
don't
very
they rely on it?
I don't know.
But they don't rely.
Maybe they don't know the Rabbi Kivega. They don't know that Rabbi Kivega says it. But you can't rely on Rabbi Kivega as long as you have somebody who slept during the day. What?
Like somebody who goes off. I mean, somebody doesn't go to sleep.
It has to be a Sheinas Keva, that means in bed. If you're dozing off while you're learning, right, that's not a Sheinas Keva.
Or then on the couch, just for a few minutes. Or
Not a few minutes, no. It has to be, I think, at least a half hour. It has to be a significant sleep.
It has to be your bed, or it could be even in the
No, it doesn't have to be your bed, but you have to be lying down.
And then couch.
And not just sitting there and dozing off, like we do, like everybody, then you wouldn't have a problem. Everybody sometime in Shua's night is dozing off while they're learning.
No, but some goes up for more than half an hour.
For the whole shir. So they're trying to do a mitzvah. They want to solve the problem. That's why they're sleeping through the shir. Yeah, it's better to be awake during the shir, and they'll find another solution. How to say because I just want to conclude. So this is a very, very famous issue, and it's really dependent on the nature of what Birchas HaTorah is. There is a third way of looking at Birchas HaTorah. We had Birchas HaMitzvah according to the Vilna Gaon and many others. We can view Birchas HaTorah as a Birchas HaShvach. It's a praise and thanks to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving us the matana of Torah. And I mentioned the Sefer Chinuch before. The Sefer Chinuch is like the Ramban, that Birchas HaTorah is a mitzvah d'oraisa, but there's one difference. The Ramban counts it as a separate mitzvah in the Taryag mitzvahs. The Sefer Chinuch includes it in the mitzvah of Birkas HaMazon. In the same way that after we eat, we have to thank Hashem, right? And we say Birkas HaMazon. So too, before we learn Torah, we have to say a Birkas HaTorah. And he explains why the difference. Why by Birkas HaMazon it's only after we eat, not before we eat. Before we eat, eating saying brachas is the Rabban. But Birkas HaMazon, after we eat a meal, then we have to say Birkas HaMazon midoraisa. But by Talmud Torah, we have to say a bracha midoraisa before we learn. And Sefer Chinuch explains that the HaKadosh Baruch Hu realizes when he gave the mitzvah of Birkas HaMazon that a person can only truly thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the physical hanoah, the physical pleasure, only after the body feels that physical pleasure. After you eat and the body is neheneh, has that hanoah, then you can say bimakir tov. You can give appreciation and gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's because it's hanoah's haguf. It's the hanoah of the body, and the body doesn't feel the hanoah until it actually receives the hanoah. But Talmud Torah is something intellectual. Talmud Torah is not hanoah's haguf, it's hanoah's haseicha, a person's intellect, his mind and his heart. So the mind and the heart can understand the benefit and the hanoah from Talmud Torah even before he learns. And therefore, the Sefer Chinuch says that Birchas HaTorah is a Birchas HaNeneh. It's a bracha on the hanoah. Just like we say, we make a bracha on the hanoah, on the pleasure of eating, but that's only after we eat, so too we have to make a bracha on the hanoah from learning, but even before we learn, because our intellect, our minds, and our hearts can understand that there's the hanor that we're going to get, the benefit and the hanor that we'll get from learning Torah. From the Eglei Tal in his Akdoma, the Sefer Eglei Tal writes the following. I want to read this statement. Ika mitzvahs limud HaTorah hu lios someach umisanei b'limudo. The Ika mitzvah upon an essential part of learning Torah is to have simcha, to have joy and pleasure from our learning. And if a person has pleasure and joy, simcha, when he's learning, the words of Torah will be internalized. They will become part of him. They will make such an impression and an impact on him. A person has to have pleasure, has to enjoy learning, have a simcha from learning. And if he has a simcha, a joy in learning, then the Torah will become an integral part of the person. And having simcha from learning is not learning shalom lishma, the Eglei Tal says. That's learning lishma. You're learning for the sake of learning, but part of that learning is to have the simcha, the joy and the pleasure from learning Torah. And therefore, we can understand the Sefer Chinuch. He says, Birkas HaTorah is a bracha midoraisa, but he includes it in Birkas HaMozai, because he views Birkas HaTorah as being a bracha on the hanor, on the simcha of learning, Torah. And on the hanor of learning Torah. So just like we have a bracha on the hanor that we have from eating, that's Birchas Hamazon, and after we eat, so too we have to say a bracha to HaKadosh Baruch Hu before we learn Torah, because we understand that Torah it gives a Jew simcha, it gives him hanor, it gives him joy, it gives him pleasure, and therefore it's the nature of Birkas HaTorah, according to the Sefer HaChinuch, is a Birkas HaNenin. So we have all three different categories how to view Birkas HaTorah. Is it a Birkas HaMitzvah? Is it a Birkas HaShrach? Or is it a Birkas HaNenin? I just want to conclude with a word that I heard many years ago from Rav Chanoich Ehrentreu, the Ab Bezdin of the London Bezdin. Gemara in Sanhedrin says, a non-Jew is not allowed to learn Torah, right? Many different halachas about that. We're not going into that now. But the non-Jew was not allowed to learn Torah, and the Gemara says it's as if he's committing adultery. Why? Because he's learning the Torah that was given to Klal Yisrael, that we are wedded to Torah. Chosan and Kala. The Torah is like our Kala, and we're like the Chosan. That's why Matan Torah, Kof Aleim Har Kigiyas. Kodesh Baruch Hu held the mountain over their heads. It was like a chuppah. Many of the minhagim that we have by a chasana, by a chuppah, we learn from Matan Torah, right? So it was a chuppah. It was a marriage between Hakadosh Baruch Hu and Klal Yisrael through the Torah. So we became wedded. We became married to the Torah. So if a non-Jew learns Torah, he's trying to take the Torah away from Klal Yisrael, from the Jewish people. And the Gemara learns it from the pasuk, Torah tziva lanu Moshe, Morosha Kilas Yaakov. Moshe Rabbeinu taught us the Torah. Morosha literally means a legacy, a heritage of Kilas Yaakov, right? So the Gemara Chazal Darshan, Al Tikre Morosha Elo Me'orosa. Don't read the word Morosha, legacy, read it as if it says Me'orosa. Erisin means a wedding. Me'orosa, the Torah is Me'orosa, wedded to Klal Yisrael, an Arusa to Klal Yisrael. So Rav Chanoich Ehrentreu asks a very simple question. Morosha means legacy. We understand what that means. Torah is a legacy down through the generations. Why did Chazal interpret Morosha as Me'orosa? Right? There was no problem with the word Morosha. Why did they interpret that way? So he explained that Morosha means a legacy. Legacy means you transmit it from one generation to the next. How is one able to transmit Torah to the next generation? Right? You can't just transmit it, because they have to learn. The children have to learn. If the father learns, right, the Torah won't be transmitted to the children. They have to learn, and the grandchildren. Each generation has to learn. So how do you transmit? How is Torah a morosha, a legacy? So Chazal say ma'orosa, tikre morosha ela ma'orosa. If you view Torah as morosa, meaning something that you love, something that you enjoy, like a husband loves his wife, chassan loves the kala. If Torah is viewed in that way, that we're wedded to Torah, and then when we are learning Torah, there's a simcha, there's a joy, in a passion in learning Torah, an enthusiasm, inspiration in learning Torah, and the children see their parents learning Torah in that way, then it will be a morasha. Then Torah will be a legacy that's passed on to the next generation. Torah has to be learned with an ahava, with a love, with a simcha, with a joy, and then if it's a ma'orasa, you view it, you learn Torah with a love, then it can be a morasha. And that's what Chazal said, Al tikrei morasha, elo morasa, Yehi rotzen, that through Kabbalah HaTorah and the Shluas, we should be zeicher to be mekabel Torah, b'simcha, u'va'oineg, and when we're learning Torah, we should be mekayim. We should be mekayim the bracha. We say it in the bracha, V'harev no Hashem Elokeinu as divrei sarasecha. Hashem, make the words of Torah pleasant for us, that we have a simcha, that we enjoy learning Torah, and then it's guaranteed that it will be for v'niya anachnu v'tzetzaeinu v'tzetzaeinu kulol yodei shnecha v'loim de Torah sefer lishma. If we learn Torah with a harik, with a love, and with a simcha, then our children and our grandchildren will see that, and when the Torah will be transmitted and will be internalized for all generations. Have a chag. Sameach.
Thank you very much. We appreciate Rabbi Sauer being kind to be with us today. And I said the great given.